Spitting Image, Chapter 22, entitled SOV. Miss Hagmaier wasn't the only one upended by Leon's doll work. His playground stunts made the whole school flip. Nothing that nimble, nothing that wild had ever taken place at the classical school, ever. After Miss Hagmaier landed back on Earth, she teetered through the entryway and disappeared. The fourth graders all rushed back from recess to find their classroom empty. The only trace of Miss Hagmaier was a note scrawled across the blackboard. It said, "Work on your masterpieces until dismissal." "Did the hag write that?" Lily Matisse asked Leon. Had to be her. Who else splits the word masterpiece in two? "Well, her penmanship's looking awfully sloppy," said Lily Matisse. "Gee, I wonder why," said PW. "Maybe she's feeling a little dizzy. She probably went to see the nurse." "Nah," said Lumpkin, who had overheard PW's remark. "The hag's with Bird Whistle. I saw her when I left there," he snickered. "Now it's her turn to get caged." Mr. Hankey, the janitor, stuck his head into the classroom and said, "Principal Bird Whistle told me to keep an eye on you wisecrackers. If I have to pick up one single solitary spitball after school, it'll be detention for the whole lot of you from now until carnival." "We would never waste spit on spitballs," said PW. "That's enough out of you, Mr. Weisenheimer," the janitor said. "Settle down and work on your projects." Once Mr. Hankey had left the room, Leon, Lily Matisse, and PW regrouped under the counting house tally. "I still can't believe that final trick you did," PW marveled. Lily Matisse shook her head in awe. 6 complete turns. 7, PW corrected. "And man, that Velcro holds. I thought for sure the hag's hair would whip off when she was spinning around." "Fake hair," said Lily Matisse. "Which was the toughest move?" PW asked. Leon had to think a bit before he could answer. "Probably getting the hag inside the ropes. That and the mumbles." "The mumbles were amazing," said Lily Matisse. "Kid stuff compared to the pop-ups and the twists," said PW. He grabbed Leon's hands. "These should be registered with the police as dangerous weapons." Leon couldn't stop himself from smiling. "Well, you guys helped. A lot." "Come off it," said PW. "You were the one at the controls. Plus, when the doll lost power, who came up with the solution to the solution? That was a very sweet save." "Maybe," said Leon, "but it was your idea to up the dosage, PW. You were the one who realized that the spit worked like yeast." "And you were key too, Lily Matisse," Leon added, sensing she was feeling left out. "I couldn't have handled those rope tricks without you. You were amazing." Lily Matisse blushed. "Could you believe Antoinette's face when Miss Hagmaier started doing kick-buys?" PW began singing quietly. "Miss Hagmaier had a hairpiece." Lily Matisse joined in. "That hairpiece had a smell." Leon turned the duet into a trio, and Leon suddenly stopped. "Where does the hag go?" "I can think of a few places I'd like her to go," said PW. "I'm serious," said Leon, turning pensive. "Where is she taking our Animals?" SOV, said PW, "wherever that is." "Exactly," said Leon. "What are you saying?" Lily Matisse asked. Leon took a deep breath. "I'm saying the fun and games are over. I'm saying we've got to find out where the hag sells our Animals. And I'm saying we've got to get them back." "Get them back?" said Lily Matisse skeptically. "How?" "When it comes to Animals, she's totally unbendable." "Oh, really?" said Leon. He patted his pouch. "She didn't seem unbendable during recess." PW started giggling. "Awesome! Leon, freeze the Animals," he said. "It'd be kind of like that palace revolt we just read about." And PW ran his desk and returned with his medieval reader. "Hold on a sec." He flipped through the pages. "Here we go." He located the passage in question. "And so did the knights errant Liberate the prisoners and restore to them their livestock that were seized. That's animals, by the way. He skimmed a bit more. Blah, blah, blah. And then did the valiant knights hang the evil malefactor and spit upon the wicked tyrant's dismembered body. Let me see, said Lily Matisse. She grabbed the reader and scanned the section PW quoted. It doesn't say anything about spit. You just stuck that in. PW shrugged. I'm not sure about the hanging and dismemberment, said Leon. All I want to do is find out where the hag is selling the animals. Then we should probably get our hands on her SOV binder, said PW. It'll tell us where she's doing business. It might even give us the name of the slime ball who is buying our stuff. But we don't know where she keeps the binder, said Lily Matisse. Of course we do, said PW. He glanced over at the metal cabinet with the heavy brass lock. You want us to break into the hag's cabinet? Asked Lily Matisse, aghast. No, PW said calmly. I want the hag to break into the cabinet for us. He turned to Leon. Think your masterpiece can handle it? All you have to do is get the hag to use her key. It would be a lot tougher if we were dealing with a combination lock. Leon considered and quickly rejected PW's proposal. It's way too risky. Everyone would be watching her and me. Lily Matisse nodded. Your desk is right next to the cabinet. You'd get nailed for sure. And you don't want that to happen, especially not so close to final inspection. She flicked the Sir Leon spool on the nearby chart. 1 atomile to go, and then that's it. If I pass final inspection, said Leon. You'll pass, said Lily Matisse. You've doubled your SPIs. Yeah, but there's still borderline, said Leon. None of this gets any closer to finding the animals, said PW. Leon glanced around the room. He noticed that the finished bin was empty and that a bulging black plastic bag was now resting under the blackboard. Looks like the hag is about to make another delivery, he said with a meaningful smile. When Napoleon arrived at pickup that day, Leon rushed over. Bonjour, Monsieur Napoleon. Bonjour, Monsieur Leon. And how was your day? A 9 3/4, Leon said. Napoleon smiled. Is that so? Yes, said Leon. Want to turn it into a 9 4/4 day? But of course, said Napoleon. I would be very pleased to make your day perfect. Leon waved Lily Matisse and PW over to the cab. After a quick round of hellos, he said, Guess what the hag is about to do, Napoleon? What, Monsieur Leon? She's about to sell some of our animals. We want to tail her. Tail her? He means follow her, explained Lily Matisse. Oh, said Napoleon. Well, for that I am at your service. He opened the back of his cab and tipped his imaginary hat. The 3 detectives and their private driver had idled by the curb for about 10 minutes when PW suddenly blurted into his wristwatch. Grinch alert, Grinch alert. Leon leaned toward the window and, spotting Miss Hagmeyer, said, Suspect observed. Which one is she? Napoleon asked. She's kind of tough to miss, said PW. Black cape, black boots, black hair. Plus, she's got a black garbage bag slung over her shoulder, Leon added. Napoleon spotted Miss Hagmeyer, and he stepped on the gas. Don't get too close, Lily Matisse warned. The hag's got super sensitive hearing. Napoleon lifted his foot off the pedal and trailed from a safe distance. Twice he almost lost her. Once when a large van cut him off. The second time because some tourists, all sporting leather shorts, green felt hats, and open-toed sandals with thick white socks, blocked the taxi at an intersection. Fortunately, Miss Hagmeyer's hunched silhouette was easy to relocate. 8 blocks from the school, she pushed through the side entrance of a dilapidated warehouse. Does anyone know what dilapidated means? A dilapidated warehouse?
No.
Jackson?
Big warehouse?
not big, but it has to do with something that's like kind of broken down and old. Leon grabbed for the taxi's door handle. "Wait," said Napoleon. "But we'll lose her," said Leon. "We promised to stick together, Monsieur Napoleon," Lily Matisse said in her most responsible-sounding voice. "And we'll return straight away," said P.W. "How soon is straight away?" Napoleon demanded. 10 minutes, said Leon. 15 tops. P.W. made a show of pushing some buttons on his fancy wristwatch. "See? I've set my alarm. If you are not back in..." But the back seat of the taxi was empty before Napoleon could finish his threat. Leon was first through the warehouse door. P.W. followed. Lily Matisse brought up the rear. They tracked Miss Hagmaier to an elevator. A sign that said, "Out of order," forced her to take the stairs, and they did the same. And so began the game of cat and mouse. A very quiet game of cat and mouse, since the mouse, Miss Hagmaier, had hearing that more closely resembled a bat's. On the third floor, she stopped to catch her breath. On the flight below, Leon bent over the banister and peered up through the open stairwell. As he did, his sneaker made a faint squeak. "Who's down there?" Miss Hagmaier barked. Leon flattened himself against the stairwell wall and waited until the clack of boot heels confirmed that Miss Hagmaier had continued her climb. She paused again on the fourth floor. This time Leon was more cautious when he leaned out. He observed her boots, the hem of her cape, and the bottom of the garbage bag. "Do you have a shot?" P.W. whispered. "I think so," Leon whispered back, "but I want to wait until she's with the toy thief." "I'd test the doll now while she's resting," P.W. said in a low voice. "You don't want any nasty surprises when you're face-to-face with her and that slime ball." "It makes sense," Lily Matisse whispered. Leon leaned over the banister and lined up a shot. He gave a couple of yanks on the doll. Nothing happened. "Can't get the right angle," he said. P.W. grabbed onto Leon's jacket so that he could lean out further. "Try now." Leon stretched over the banister and extended his view. Boots, body, bag, hand. Bingo! With her bony fingers now visible, Leon hoped he could make Miss Hagmaier release the bag of Animiles. But it wasn't Miss Hagmaier who lost her grip. It was P.W. Leon stumbled forward over the open stairwell, and to catch his balance, he had to grab the banister. And to grab the banister, he had to let go of the doll. It plummeted down the stairwell. For a terrifying moment, Leon waited to see if Miss Hagmaier would hurtle herself down to the bottom of the stairs, forced to a grisly death by the accidental release of the magic masterpiece. "I'm warning you," Miss Hagmaier yelled moments later from above. "Whoever's following me, I'm armed." It was clear from the eerie shadow on the wall that she was gripping her instructional needle like a dagger. "You stay here," Leon whispered to Lily Matisse and P.W. "I'll go get the masterpiece." In the time it took for him to rush to the bottom of the stairwell, retrieve the doll, and return, Miss Hagmaier had continued on to the 5th floor, where she pushed through a fire door. And though winded, Leon followed close behind. When he poked his head onto the landing, he found himself in the middle of an ill-lit hallway with countless doors running off in both directions. Miss Hagmaier was nowhere to be seen. "Think we should split up?" he asked, still breathing heavily. "Negative," P.W. said. "Not happening," said P.W. "So, then, which way do we go?" "Left," said Lily Matisse. "Right," said P.W. "Shoot for it," Leon told them. They did rock, paper, scissors. PW won, so they turned right, inspecting every door they passed. None of the nameplates suggested a company that dealt in stolen stuffed toys. At the end of the long, grim corridor, Leon peeked around the corner and discovered another corridor, just as long and just as grim as the first. The hunt continued, door by door, corridor by corridor. There was no trace of Miss Hagmaier. Then, some 20 feet from the spot where the floor search had first started, they hit pay dirt. "Oh my gosh," Lily Matisse blurted out. "I knew we should have taken a left." The door that prompted her "I told you so" had the names of 4 businesses stenciled on the frosted glass. Sherlock Holmes, Fawn's Flora, Dunroman Realty, Royal Flush Plumbing Supplies. And taped below the last of those names was a hand-lettered sign written in an all too familiar script. Stitches of Virtue. PW pressed himself against the door frame and grabbed hold of the knob. "Cover me," he whispered. Leon positioned himself 10 feet away with Lily Matisse directly behind his back. He gave the thumbs up to PW and aimed. PW tried to turn the knob. Locked, he mouthed silently. Leon motioned to check again. PW gave the knob a more vigorous twist and then rapped his knuckles against the glass. No one answered. "We blew it," Lily Matisse cried, once it was clear whispering was no longer necessary. "The hag must have made her delivery while we were going in the wrong direction." "At least we found out what SOV stands for," said Leon. "What do you mean?" said PW. "Look at the door," said Lily Matisse. "Stitches of Virtue. SOV. "Oh," PW said, annoyed he hadn't made the connection on his own. Lily Matisse kicked the door in frustration. "We'll never get the Animals back." "Sure we will," said PW. "How?" asked Leon. PW's wristwatch started beeping. It was time to return to the taxi. "I'll show you back at my place," he said. "Show us how?" asked Leon. PW smiled. "You'll see."